Hi everyone, this is Raghav from NLTI, and today we are going to discuss a very important subject, that is understanding CLAT 2027 through PYQ patterns. CLAT 2027 कैसा हो सकता है based on the past year question papers, ये आज हम understand करेंगे through this video. So इसमें हमने क्या क्या study किया है before making this strategy. So this plan is based on the last 3 years of your CLAT PYQ, that is CLAT 24, 25, 26. Then what kind of thinking the paper now demands, आपका अभी क्या mindset होना चाहिए before preparing for the exam, before attempting the exam, आपका क्या mindset होना चाहिए, how sections have changed, sections कैसे evolve हुए हैं, be it English, be it legal reasoning, be it GK, and how NLSIU level students adapt. अगर आप एक टॉप रैंक अचीव करने का पोटेंशियल रखते हो तो आपका क्या अडेप्टेबिलिटी होनी चाहिए, आपका क्या माइंडसेट होना चाहिए. So let's just talk about how CLAT has changed over the years, be it 24, be it 25 or be it 26. So the number one criteria is reading heavy. 2024, 2025 एंड 2026 तीनों साल में जो पेपर है वो एक रीडिंग हैवी आया है, पेपर लेंथी आया है. आपके पैसेजेस की लेंथ ज़्यादा आई है, इट्स 500 वर्ड्स, 600 वर्ड्स, इतनी आपकी पैसेजेस की लेंथ आई है. पैसेज लेड सेक्शंस ऑफ कोर्स वन लाइनर बेस्ड नहीं है इसका पैटर्न. यस 24, 25, 26 में पैसेज बेस्ड ही रहेगा हमारा एग्जाम हमेशा से. Inference more than facts. Now, the third criteria is inference के जो questions हैं, inferential questions, they have been asked more than the factual questions in all the 3 years. So आपके जो inference based question है, आपको आपकी critical reasoning बहुत strong करनी पड़ेगी इसके लिए, because as per the last 3 years, inferential questions have been asked in a majority. Logical unpredictability, CLAT हमेशा से ही अनप्रेडिक्टेबल रहा है. 2024, 2025 और 2026 में स्पेशली इसकी जो प्रेडिक्टेबिलिटी है हाई रही है बिकॉज ऑफ द AR सेक्शन. एनालिटिकल रीजनिंग का जो आपका सेक्शन था दैट वाज इन द मेजॉरिटी पार्ट जो आपका पूछा गया था, और बच्चे इस सेक्शन के लिए इतना प्रिपेयर्ड नहीं थे. दैट इज व्हाई द अनप्रेडिक्टेबिलिटी इन 2026 has risen by many folds. Now, legal reasoning has been linked to real issues in all the 3 years, 24, 25, 26, and GK has been kept as contextual. जो आपको context दिया जाएगा उसी में से आपको GK पूछी जाएगी. GK बहुत ज़्यादा static नहीं रही है. It has been kept as contextual as they can. Now let's talk about what strategy is going to work for the English section as per last 3 years. Number one step is going to be stop practicing vocab lists. You don't need to practice word power made easy or anything like that. It's very redundant. If you understand the passage, if you're able to interpret the passage, you don't need to have a very good vocabulary. Number two is stopping grammar drills. Of course, अगर आपकी grammar अच्छी है तो it plays a little role in understanding the passage and understanding certain words जो बाकी average audience को समझ में नहीं आएंगे. But अगर आप इस पे बहुत ज़्यादा focus करोगे, on tenses, on active passive voices, that is not what is asked in the exam. So you need to stop practicing these grammar drills. And number third is train argument mapping. You should be able to map the argument that has been given in the passage, that the author has argued, that the author infers from the passage, or rather what you infer from the passage, you need to get a strong hold of it. So आपका RC का एक workflow क्या होना चाहिए when you are reading a comprehension? What should be your workflow? The first thing is to identify the claim, then the support, then the pivot, then the conclusion. So the first thing that you need to identify, that is the subject, what the author is trying to say, or rather what the author is trying to talk about. किस बारे में बात हो रही है, the subject or the topic. Second thing is going to be support. जो आपको लग रहा है कि ऑथर इस बारे में बात कर रहा है, उसको सपोर्ट कर रहा है आपका पैसेज या नहीं. That is going to be identifying support. So the third thing that is going to be there is to identify the pivot, or you can say the main argument of the passage. अब हम इसमें एक एग्जांपल ले सकते हैं कि if the author is talking about pollution, then the main pivot of the passage can be the causes of pollution, or it can be how we can improve this problem. So pollution को improve कैसे कर सकते हैं, pollution को basically आप tackle कैसे कर सकते हो, और इसके causes क्या हैं. That is the pivot of the passage. So you need to identify the pivot of the passage. And the fourth step is to identify the conclusion of the passage, what the author is trying to conclude from the passage. एक पेपर पैटर्न जो हमें पता लगता है पास्ट ईयर्स से, that is, instead of asking what does this word mean, CLAT asks what does this word mean here. So as I told you before, the exam is very contextual. आपसे अगर आपको एक रीडिंग कॉम्प्रिहेंशन, एक कॉम्प्रिहेंशन दिया हुआ है, तो आपसे क्वेश्चन में ये नहीं पूछा जाएगा कि व्हाट इज द मीनिंग ऑफ द वर्ड, ये पूछा जाएगा कि व्हाट इज द मीनिंग ऑफ दिस वर्ड हेयर, और व्हाट डू यू अंडरस्टैंड बाय द वर्ड, व्हाट इज द कॉन्टेक्स्ट ऑफ दिस वर्ड. सो ये आपसे पूछा जाएगा. अगेन अ वेरी गुड एग्जांपल, व्हाट हैपेंड इन द पैसेज, ये नहीं पूछा जाएगा. आपसे पूछा जाएगा व्हाट डज द ऑथर वांट यू टू थिंक अबाउट व्हाट हैपेंड. That is inference. This is also inference. So basically inferential questions आपसे पूछे जाएंगे more than the factual questions. Now let's talk about what actually happened in the past 3 years. So if we talk about CLAT 24, a literary extract from Anita Desai's Fire on the Mountain, ये एक आपसे जो पैसेज है दैट वाज आस्क्ड इन द एग्जाम. इसमें क्वेश्चंस क्या टेस्ट हुए थे, इमोशनल अंडरटोन, कैरेक्टर माइंडसेट, व्हाट इज implied नॉट स्टेटेड. अगेन दिस शोज CLAT wants interpretation. They don't want you to retell, they don't want you to factualize the passage, they want you to interpret the passage. CLAT 25 में an essay style passage similar to George Orwell's Why I Write. So an essay style passage similar to a novel that was asked in the exam. Questions tested, why the author wrote it, what the author truly believes. Tone shifts, तो ये आपके 3 तरह के questions, again inference based. This shows CLAT cares about author intent, not vocabulary. CLAT 2026 passages were simple to read, that required careful attention. Simple to read passages थे, और sources included George Orwell's Animal Farm, Sapiens by Yuval Noah, Rabindranath Tagore's novels. Questions again focused on what the passage is really saying, small logical inferences, meaning in context. So this whole slide shows कि आपको inferential questions पे focus करना है. I cannot emphasize on this more. You need to have a good understanding of the inference based questions. You need to have a good understanding of the CR drills and not the grammar drills. Now let's talk about the most unpredictable sections in the exam, that is the GK and the current affairs section. So CLAT now frames GK inside the passages. That's what we have seen in the previous year papers. CLAT की जो GK है पिछले 3 साल से आपको जो पैसेज दिया जा रहा है उसी में आंसर्स हिडन है. तो बहुत ही सिंपल हो गया बच्चों के लिए आजकल, बट स्टिल it's the most unpredictable section and you need to be as prepared as you can for this section. So CLAT expects you that you must know the story, not just the headline. You need to have a full understanding of the story, why it happened, how it happened, who were the parties involved, what, how, when. That is the most important thing that you need to emphasize on while preparing for this section. So 2024 में आपसे चंद्रयान, G20, Constitution and conflicts पूछा गया था, which is a mix of polity plus current affairs. 2025 में Olympics, Article 370, Women's Reservation. This is also a mix of polity plus your current affairs. And 2026 में SCO, Chess Championship and Trump tariffs. So as it shows that GK is now a reading section with facts. आपके जो आंसर्स हैं वो आपके पैसेजेस में ही हो सकते हैं. So you need to understand, you need to read the passage very carefully. So आपके लिए काम क्या कर सकता है, that is what happened, you need to write 2-3 lines on it. Why it matters, again 2 lines. Institution involves 1-2 lines, and legal policy angle, that is 1-2 lines. So what, why, who, and you can say the implication. So this is the strategy, these are the components that you need to follow while making your notes. What was the issue, why it happened, who, basically who are the parties involved, and the implication, basically from a legal angle, what can be the implication. So this is how you need to make your notes. This is how you need to approach this section. Now let's talk about the resources that you can refer to while preparing for this section. Recommended sources are obviously the newspapers, the established, the recommended newspapers, that is the Hindu, the Indian Express, the PRS Legislative Research, PIB Summaries, and Rishi IAS Current Affairs. So you need to have an understanding of the newspapers. You need to make your own notes while making the newspapers. That is the recommended source. And at the end of the month, read everything from a compilation or a compendium. This again, what you need to avoid is random Instagram pages, 200-page monthly PDFs. So you don't need to completely avoid the compendiums, but you need to change the approach while reading the compendiums. So make your own notes and revise from the compendiums. That is the right approach. So now let's talk about the legal reasoning section, one of the core sections of the exam and one of the sections that you can master easily using your practice. So what legal was like in 2024, questions or passages related to DPDP, defamation, inheritance and JJ Act was asked. 25, Privacy, Unfair Means Act, GI and Environment were asked. 2026 was constitutional plus legal current heavy. So that is the pattern that is being followed in this section. Now what this pattern shows is that CLAT is not testing that you should know all the IPC sections, just memorizing the IPC sections or memorizing the bare acts or legal jargons. So CLAT is not at all testing this. CLAT needs you to have an understanding of the acts. What this shows is that CLAT needs you to have the core understanding of the acts, and what this shows is that this section will require heavy practice and not just memorization. What CLAT is actually testing is principal interpretation, which we just talked about, boundary of rules, exception logic, जो आपकी exceptions आती हैं in the acts, and real world application, how these acts can be applied in the real world. So on a daily basis, you need to solve 5 legal questions slowly and deeply. Every legal question must pass these 3 checks, which is what is the rule, what is the decisive fact, and which option applies to the rule cleanly. So this is the strategy that you can use for the legal reasoning section, and I can assure you that if you use this strategy, you are going to score very good marks in the exam, because this strategy has been tested by the NLSIU toppers, by the CLAT toppers, and we have precedent that this strategy works. Now let's talk about another core section, that is the logical reasoning section, or the strategy that we can use to go through this section, to sail through this section. So what we have seen across the last 3 years is that 2024 had short passages with tricky inference, more focus on the inferential based questions, that is the CR section, critical reasoning. 2025 was also mostly critical reasoning with one analytical set, one AR set. And 2026 suddenly shifted the focus to AR, that is analytical reasoning. This was one of the major changes which students had not expected. So students from this year, CLAT 27 aspirants, you need to have core understanding of both critical reasoning and analytical reasoning. You need to have heavy practice in both the domains. Now, of course, you need two tracks for CR: assumptions, strengthen based, inference, most important things in critical reasoning. This can also be used in the English section, so it will prepare you for both. एनालिटिकल रीजनिंग में आपसे पूछे जा सकते हैं सिटिंग, अरेंजमेंट्स, रूल बेस्ड पजल्स. Sitting can be A is sitting to the left of B, B to the left of C. So who is sitting to the left of F? This is the type of arrangement questions. It can be circular, it can be linear. Then rule-based puzzles. There can be some basic rules given, and you need to solve questions based on those rules and patterns. So quant is not about being good at maths, it's about staying calm with time. Why we say this? Because most of the students attempt this section at the last. So you need to be calm, you need to be patient, because even if you miss out on a single number, your whole section can be ruined. Now, what the last three papers show us is that questions come in caselets, that is DI sets. They are not isolated questions, they are DI sets. A set will be given and 4-5 questions will be asked. Ratio and percentages dominate. These two topics have always dominated the CLAT exam. So ratios and percentages is somewhat that you need to have a very good hold on and a very good practice of. Data is often hidden inside text, so you need to clearly understand the passage, understand the set, and then map it in the form of a table or whatever the question expects you to. Long calculations are traps. Generally, जो आपकी calculations हैं, they are short, they are not on the decimal side. Normally numbers are given only, which are whole numbers or natural numbers. So if you devise a long calculation, that most probably means that you are inside a trap. So how to attempt? You can take it in 2 rounds. In the first round, what you can do is attempt clean and easy questions. Do not write full solutions. This is debatable. You can, solve it as per your convenience. Use approximations wherever possible. This is very much useful while solving. If you devise, let's say 17 into 3.51, so you can approximate it to be 51 or 52. So this is what you can use. Skip anything that looks long or messy. You can come to it in the second round, but you can skip it if you feel कि ये आपसे नहीं हो पाएगा. Now, what your daily routine can be to follow: in the morning, for 60 to 75 minutes, you can have a deep reading block. In the late morning, a legal thinking block to solve legal reasoning questions. In the afternoon, for 45 to 60 minutes, you can have a GK compendium to read. You can have your notes to read. So this will be your GK time. In the evening for 45 to 60 minutes, you can solve logical plus a quant workbook. And in the night time, you can reflect upon what you have done for the entire day. So this can be your daily routine. You can make your routine as per your own convenience, but this is what we can suggest you to. So thank you everyone. I hope you found this video valuable. And if you have any doubts, you can reach out to our team. If you have any doubts related to the course, related to the exam, related to anything, you can reach out to us anytime in the number given below in the description. Thank you.